Hi folks, I am here at the studio today for Tika's Teachables. I have a demo for you. I want to do a little spring painting for you. But before that, I just want to apologize for last week when I went way over my time frame. And then this morning I told you I wasn't going to go live, and here I am going live and a little bit early. So I know that you guys will see this later, and I just want to share a few things and get started. We're going to work on a small canvas today to keep it fast. Tomorrow night there are seats still available. Austin's teaching Dueling Daisies. Make sure to get in and get those seats reserved so he can have a canvas ready to go for you. On next Wednesday the 20th, I will be teaching Hokusai's Tsunami, also known as the Great Wave. We'll be doing our interpretation of that. And there are seats available on Wednesday night for that. Seascape next Friday with Austin. He has room available in that, followed by Saturday the 23rd with Elisa from Oakenbrush. She will be teaching hand lettering. On Thursday the 28th, we've got Lover's Lake. There are seats available for this fundraiser if you'd like to do this painting. It's open to the public. And last but not least, the fifth painting in our Oregon Love series on Oregon wood cutouts, we have Table Rock. We had several requests to do this one. Nothing like having a local landmark, and that is on Saturday, March 30th. So there's about 10 seats left for that one, and if you want one, you got to go reserve them. I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera around so you can see what I'm doing next. All right. So I'll show you my palette. I am working with white, black. I have a blue, yellow, and magenta there. The blue we're using today is ultramarine blue. As far as brushes go, I have a small detail brush. I have my flat brush, 1-inch flat brush, and a scruffy little brush there we're going to use for something fun. All right, I always start by wetting my brush, and we are going to mix. Let's see if I can turn this where you can see it. I'm going to start by mixing some yellow and bringing some white into it. I want a nice pale yellow. And I'm going to start up here in the corner. One thing about using a flat brush is we always want to keep the bristles flat. So we don't want to like scrunch it or abuse it in any way. That goes for not just when we're painting, but when we're mixing and when we're rinsing our brush. So I'm going to bring in a little of that magenta, and you'll see it turns kind of a peachy color. And I'm going to overlap right here on the edge of that pale yellow. Now, for this particular painting, I want to see those brush strokes. I'm not going for a smooth look. Hi, Angie. I see you there. All right. Now I'm bringing in a little more magenta. Warm this up a little bit more. And I'm just slapping that on there. When I teach my classes, I typically tell people this is my X brush stroke because I'm doing X's. All right, I'm going to rinse that out. And we've got this hard line here where the colors meet. And I want to tone that down a bit. So I've rinsed my brush out, I've dried it off, it's clean, but still damp. And I'm going over that line, the same brush stroke, but with a clean brush. And you can see it kind of softened it a little bit. All right, so just a little more gradual transition. All right, so I'm gonna bring in magenta, lighten it up just a tad, and I'm going to do this color right next to it. Pretty bright pink there. Now I can bring in just a touch of that blue. One thing when you're mixing colors, you want to keep in mind that if you start with your lighter value, your lighter color, and add the dark color into it, you're less likely to completely overpower it. So for instance, if you're mixing green, which we'll do here in a minute, I want to take my yellow first and add blue into it just a little bit at a time so I have more control over it. So again, I have those hard edges, rinse my brush out so I can soften those a bit too, blend it out. And if you're just joining me right now and have any questions, let me know, or you just want to say hi. I can see. You can't see me, but you can at least see what I'm doing today. Let's see if the lighting is less, there we go, a little less glare. There we go. Okay. So I can do this with acrylic paint so long as the paint is still wet. All right. So I'm going to rinse that out. And I'm going to mix that green like I was speaking of here. Okay, so I've brought out a little yellow. I pull it away from my main puddle, and I'm going to get just a corner in the green, or in the blue, so I can mix green. So there's a very light shade there. Not quite what I was going for, so I'll add a little bit more. Another thing to remember when you're mixing colors is that you don't have to mix it into all of it. I'm going to use that color later, so I don't want to completely take it over. Let's show you what I'm doing there. Okay. And mix those in. And now I'm going to come in with an upward brush stroke. I told you we were painting spring. I'm bringing in some grass. Now those wet colors, you can see it's dragging through there. I'm not too concerned with it in this case because I have layers that I'm going to build up here. Some of you might recognize this painting that I'm doing. It's one I've taught here before, the Dandelion Breeze. I'm gonna bring in the green down at the bottom. So I thought I'd do just a quick demonstration of this one. It feels like spring here today. If you're not here in Southern Oregon, I hope you're getting sunshine like we are. It's gorgeous outside. Had the doors wide open during classes this afternoon. It was wonderful. All right, so I filled that area in green. You can see it's kind of spotty in through here. Not too concerned, like I said. So I'm gonna rinse that brush out. The main reason I'm rinsing the brush out is because there's traces of the pink and purple that it picked up when I was applying the green. So my next step here, I'm going to take some of that blue and I am going to add a tiny bit of white. And so you can see it's pretty light shade there. I want a tiny bit of the magenta in there too, so it's kind of looking like a dark lavender. Now this is just going to give some depth in here. I'm going to do the same thing I was just doing with that green. I want various levels of grass. I don't want it to look like it just got mowed, although I'm sure with all this sunshine we're going to need to be mowing the lawn soon. All right. There we go. Hi, Debbie. Yes, we're painting with acrylic paint today. All right. I'm going to bring in more blue. And I'm going to take a little bit of this bright green color I had at first, and I'm not fully mixing it in. You can kind of see I've got both colors on the brush because I want both to show up. And I've moved my brush down just a little bit. There we go. All right, and then I'm going to add white into that greenish shade. It's kind of a greenish blue right now. I'm going to go a little bit lighter. Just want these to show up. All right, there we go. Okay, so if you're familiar with this painting, you know that I have dandelions on there. I am actually going to continue to use this same brush, only now I'm going to make more of a dark red. I'm going to start by adding blue to it. So I have a bright purple at the moment. You're welcome, Debbie. I love doing this. It's my pleasure to share. I feel very fortunate to be able to do what I love every day. All right, so right now I've got a dark purple on there. I want to tone that purple shade down. So this is really strange, but I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to that shade of purple. And can you see that color there? It's kind of muddied it down a little bit. And that's exactly what I wanted. I didn't want like a bright purple or red. I wanted it toned down. So sometimes you have to play with the colors until you get just what you're looking for. There we go, that's what I wanted. Okay, so I'm gonna use this on the edge so I get the skinny brush stroke just like I do for the blades of grass, only this time I'm gonna curve them a little bit. That'll be a dandelion. And let's see, we'll do another one, crisscrossing it. And I'll do one more. All right. And then I'll put a few brush strokes down in here. So I've got quite a color combination in the bottom half of the painting where the grass is. You can really put any color you want in there. All right, so while I still have that kind of maroon-ish color on my brush, I'm going to leave these little centers of my dandelions. You're my favorite Bob Ross. Almost Bob Ross. Thanks, Angie. I'm working on the fro to go with it. I feel like Bob Ross some days. All right, I'm rinsing that color out. I'm grabbing my tiny little detail brush. I'm picking up the same color that I was just using. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to just pull out little spiky things. Hi, Laura. If you're just joining me, I am painting a little spring scene. The sunshine's inspiring me. I think it's making the grass grow. Hi, Elisa. Wasn't sure anybody was going to tune in this early. Thank you guys for joining. I will post this video later to watch. If you didn't catch it live, you'll be able to watch it later. I will also be putting it on Instagram. I set up my channel and I have yet to use it yet, but I'm hoping to be able to do that this time. All right, so I've got my little seed pods in the center there. I'm going to rinse that little brush out. Those little brushes dry so fast, we don't want paint to dry on them. I'm switching now to the bristle brush. Can you guys see that? I can't get it to focus. There we go. Okay. For this part, I'm going to start with some blue. I have just a tiny bit of blue, and I'm adding it to my white. I want a very pale blue. I don't want to go overboard here. Rather than using gray as a shadow for my white dandelion heads, I'm going to use a light blue. So I'm going to do this on the bottom side here. I've got my sun over in this top left corner, so I'm going to do the shadows going away from that light. Now these scruffy bristle brushes are great when you don't need a lot of control. And this is a perfect time for that. So I'm just kind of doing these little shadows there. Okay, so still doesn't look pretty. If you've been in my classes, you know I usually tell you that all these paintings go through an ugly phase. Right now, these are looking really weird, kind of alien-ish. So I'm gonna get the light blue out of my brush and I'm gonna get white on there instead. Now the white, I'm gonna finish shaping my circles, these dandelion heads. And again, they're gonna look a little weird at first. If you were to do this and have them too close together, like right here, they're really clustered. You'll wanna decide which one's in front and which one's in back. Right now, as I'm doing this shaping, it's not too important, but you can see right here where I had this one is on top of this brush stroke, so it makes more sense to keep that in the front. And the way I can do that is to put a little more shadow on this back one. And then when I put I'll finish building this one, and I'm just gonna keep brushing it outward. Now you might be wondering why I did that center part if I'm gonna go over it. It's because it plays peekaboo. All right, now overlap some of that white with that blue. Okay, so I'm gonna let that one dry for a minute before I do this front one in the center. And I'll do this, oops, that's too much paint. All right, if you get a big glob, that's not what you want. I'm just gonna go over it. See how that blue just kind of peeks through, gives me that shadowy area. Now I've had some people do this and they just tap the tips like that instead of doing a brush stroke. It still gives a great effect for a dandelion. Here, I'll leave that one like that so you can see that kind of peekaboo effect that it does. The goal is for this to look fuzzy, and it does look fuzzy. Here, I can add some in here too. Okay, so this one I've allowed to dry a little bit more. I'll get a little bit of, a little more white on there and work my way around. You see there's going to be a slight overlap here and a slight overlap there, allowing that center dandelion to be my focal point since it's in front. And if everything goes well, that'll be the one that you notice. I mean, they'll all kind of come together, but you know what I mean. All right, so one last little thing I'm going to show you. I'm going to go back to my little detail brush. I'm going to pick up some more of that maroon color. I actually need to mix a little bit more because I used it all. So if you didn't catch that earlier, it's the magenta with the ultramarine blue and a little bit of yellow to tone it down. Get a little more red in there. Okay. Now I want some of these blowing in the wind. I think that's all I'm going to do for this one since it's a small painting. Now I've still got my white on my bristle brush. I'm going to come to the larger end of these little pods, and because it's so small, I want to pull away just on the edge. It's a little puff, and I do it kind of in a V shape. So they look like they're blowing in the wind. If there's more details you want to add to something like that, it's pretty simple to do. You could have flowers in the background, a whole lot of other little touches, but that's essentially it. Hopefully didn't go over 20 minutes this time. Thanks for tuning in today. Have a good day.